So today we're jumping into something really profound, I think.
Yeah.
A huge question. Can religion actually spark global conflict? Or maybe, is it a path to peace? It's
It
complicated.
really is.
Well, forever, faith has been this absolute cornerstone for civilizations, right?
Yeah.
Shaping everything, cultures, laws, who we think we are.
Absolutely.
But it can also be such a flashpoint for division, a real double-edged sword.
Uh-huh.
So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack the sources you've sent over everything from ancient history to very current geopolitical reports. We want to pull out the key insights on how faith, identity, and, well, global politics all get tangled up.
And I think it's crucial to get this up front.
Right.
The main issue isn't usually just religion A versus religion B. It's more about how faith gets woven into identity, into nationalism, into struggles for power.
Right.
There was a foreign affairs piece just this year, 2025, that warned religion is, quote, rarely the sole cause of conflict, but often a powerful amplifier. It can take small disputes and just blow them up into global crises.
A powerful amplifier. That's a really key idea. So not the only cause, but something that makes existing tensions much, much worse.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to navigate this very sensitive area together, drawing out some surprising facts, some compelling stories from the material you've got, to help you understand what's really at stake in this incredibly connected world we live in now. Shall we start?
Let's do it.
Okay, so history. It gives us some pretty stark examples, doesn't it, where religion was used, really wielded, as a tool to get people moving, for good or ill sometimes. A historian mentioned this pattern on X recently, but what are the big examples that really show this?
Yeah, history's littered with them, unfortunately. If we look back, the Crusades are a major one. Between 1095 and 1291, roughly.
Right.
These were fundamentally Christian-Muslim wars. And the drive, well, it was explicitly about controlling Jerusalem. Pope Urban II called on Christians to reclaim the Holy Land. It was a powerful religious call to arms.
And the result?
Devastating. Centuries of fighting, incredible bloodshed. One study, I think, from the Journal of Medieval History last year estimated around 200,000 deaths. Just staggering. It shows how effectively faith could mobilize people for large-scale war.
Wow. 200,000. And it wasn't just those huge campaigns, right? Wasn't there stuff closer to home, like in Europe?
Oh, absolutely. You had the Inquisition in medieval Europe, which was essentially the Catholic Church trying to enforce its dominance. It used violence, fear.
Against who, mainly?
Against perceived heretics, non-Christians, anyone who didn't toe the official line. Again, it was about leveraging religious authority for control, often brutally.
Okay, let's jump forward a bit. What about something more recent?
Well, the partition of India in 1947 is a huge tragic example, driven largely by Hindu-Muslim tensions right as British rule ended.
And the human cost there?
Immense. Around 15 million people displaced. Think about that, 15 million forced from their homes. And estimates suggest up to 2 million people were killed. This was reported again recently by BBC History.
Unbelievable numbers.
And what's really striking, looking back at the Crusades, the Inquisition, the partition, is that, yes, religion was central, but it wasn't just about theological differences in a vacuum.
Right.
It was deeply tangled up with power, with land, with who belonged where, with identity. Religion provided this incredibly powerful rallying cry, a kind of moral justification for political or territorial aims.
Which leads us back to that question.
Yeah.
Are we just seeing these same dynamics play out again? Are we doomed to repeat this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
So history shows the pattern. How is this playing out now? In our world today, which is so interconnected, are we seeing religion amplifying tensions in the same way?
Okay.
Turning local stuff into global problems?
We absolutely are. And that interconnectedness means things can flare up incredibly fast. Take the Middle East, for starters.
Okay.
You have this long-standing split within Islam, the Sunni-Shia divide. It's not the cause of all conflict, but it fuels proxy wars right across the region: Syria, Yemen, Iraq.
And how does that work, the proxy element?
Yeah. Well, you have major regional powers like Saudi Arabia, which is predominantly Sunni, and Iran, which is Shia majority, backing opposing sides in these conflicts. They're using these existing religious identities as tools in their own geopolitical power struggles, struggles over influence, oil, regional dominance.
And groups like ISIS fit in how?
They explicitly exploit a very radical, distorted interpretation of religious ideas to justify horrific violence and try to carve out territory. The human cost is immense. An Al Jazeera report this year estimated over 500,000 deaths in Syria's civil war alone since 2011, partly because of these sectarian fires being stoked.
500,000 just in Syria. It really paints a picture of faith getting tangled up with those big power plays.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's shift gears. What about Asia? Is it similar there or different?
It's different in context, but you see similar dynamics of religion and identity politics colliding. Look at India.
Okay.
You've seen the rise of Hindu nationalism, particularly associated with the ruling BJP party. This movement tries to define Indian identity primarily through a Hindu lens.
And that affects...
It puts enormous strain on India's secular foundations. There have been policies like the Citizenship Amendment Act back in 2019 that were widely seen as targeting Muslims.
And that led to...
Widespread protests, sadly also violence. A Reuters report noted 53 deaths just in Delhi during related clashes. And you see discussions, like on X this year, highlighting these Hindu-Muslim tensions, not just as religious, but as a deep cultural clash that could destabilize the wider region.
So nationalism and religion becoming almost fused together.
In some narratives, yes. It's a powerful mix.
What about Africa? Are there examples there?
Definitely. Boko Haram in Nigeria is a major one. Their ideology is radically Islamist. They want to establish an Islamic state and violently oppose anything they deem Western, especially education.
And the impact.
Truly devastating.
Yeah.
A Human Rights Watch report from this year attributes over 30,000 deaths to their insurgency since 2009. They specifically target Christian communities, schools, using religion to justify terror and destabilize a huge region.
It's terrifying. In Europe, we hear a lot about tensions there, especially with migration.
Yes, the arrival of many Muslim migrants in recent years has unfortunately been exploited by far-right movements across Europe.
How so?
They often frame immigration explicitly as a kind of clash of civilizations, Christian Europe versus Muslim newcomers. A Guardian piece last year noted a rise in hate crimes in places like Germany and France, mosques being targeted after migration waves. This kind of rhetoric is incredibly dangerous. It polarizes communities and frays social bonds.
So we've looked at the Middle East, Asia, Africa, Europe. These are major hot zones. Is there anywhere else, maybe less obvious, where religion plays a role in geopolitics?
Well, it can be more subtle, too, even somewhere like the South China Sea. The main disputes are about territory and resources, obviously. But the countries involved have different majority religions. The Philippines is largely Catholic, Malaysia largely Muslim, others Buddhist influences. An Asia Times piece this year talked about how sometimes nationalist narratives will invoke these religious identities, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, to rally domestic support for their claims. It adds another layer, another thread in an already tangled situation.
It's just striking, isn't it? All these examples, from way back with the Crusades to these modern disputes.
Yeah.
It's the same theme popping up again and again. Religion gets mixed up with politics, with nationalism, and suddenly a local problem has the potential to become a global flashpoint.
Exactly.
It really reminds me of that discussion I saw on Reddit last year, experts talking geopolitics, and someone said, religion is the spark, but power is the fuel.
That sums it up pretty well. Which brings us to the crucial question. Why does this matter so much right now? More than ever, perhaps.
Yeah, what makes it so urgent today?
Well, the world is just hyper-connected now, isn't it? Information, people, problems, they all cross borders instantly. You've got rising powers like China and India changing the global balance. You've got powerful non-state actors like terrorist groups operating globally, and massive shared challenges like climate change and migration forcing interaction and sometimes friction.
So religion isn't just personal belief anymore.
It's undeniably a geopolitical force. There was a foreign policy analysis this year predicting the next decade is basically make or break for global stability. Imagine the ripple effects if major religious tensions escalate, say, a wider conflict erupts in the Middle East, or a major terrorist attack is framed as a holy war. It could disrupt global trade, trigger massive refugee flows, paralyze diplomacy. The consequences are huge.
And you mentioned interconnectedness. What about technology? Social media must play a role here, right?
Oh, absolutely. A massive role. Social media platforms can be incredible amplifiers for divisive narratives. We've seen posts, even this year on X, using hashtags like #HolyWar or #DefendTheFaith. These can rally extremists instantly, spread dangerous ideologies across the globe, bypassing traditional media, even government controls sometimes.
So it makes it harder to contain.
Much harder. And it puts governments in a really tough spot trying to balance freedom of speech and religion with the need for security. The UN knows this is urgent. Their Interfaith Dialogue initiative last year called for urgent action, specifically to prevent faith-based conflicts. They cited a scary figure. 1.8 billion people live in regions already facing high religious tension.
1.8 billion. Wow. Okay. So given all this complexity, all these dangers, what can actually be done? How do we stop religion from being that spark for global conflict? Are there paths to peace suggested in the sources?
Yes, definitely. The sources don't just paint a bleak picture, they do point towards actionable strategies. First off, promoting interfaith dialogue is absolutely
And
crucial.
what does that look like?
It can be high level, like the UN's Alliance of Civilizations program, which is still active, bringing religious leaders together. But it's also vital on the ground grassroots efforts, like interfaith community centers you see in places like the Philippines, working to build understanding and reduce local tensions neighbor to neighbor.
Okay, dialogue. What else?
Second, we have to address the root causes. Often, religious tension is just the surface symptom of deeper problems like poverty, lack of opportunity, political marginalization, historical grievances that haven't been resolved. A World Bank report last year directly linked economic inequality to rising religious extremism in parts of Africa. So things like development aid, investing in education, promoting inclusive economic policies, these can be powerful tools for prevention. They reduce the grievances that extremists exploit.
Makes sense. Address the underlying issues. What's next?
Third, actively countering extremist narratives. This is huge in the digital age. Governments, tech companies, civil society, they need to work together to tackle online radicalization, to make sure hateful propaganda doesn't just spread like wildfire.
Is that happening?
There are efforts. A TechCrunch article this year actually praised X for some steps they took to flag divisive content. But it also acknowledged, the challenges are massive and ongoing. It's a constant battle.
Okay. Dialogue, root causes, countering narratives. Anything else?
Fourth, supporting secular governance where possible. Now, secularism means different things in different places, but the basic idea of government neutrality, not favoring one religion over others, protecting equal rights for all citizens regardless of faith, that can really lower the temperature. India's constitution aims for this, for example, though obviously enforcement and maintaining that neutrality in practice can be a huge challenge.
Right, the principle versus the reality.
Exactly. And finally, maybe most importantly, empowering citizens.
Wow.
Through education, primarily. Teaching kids about religious diversity, fostering tolerance, and critical thinking from a young age. Singapore's school curriculum was highlighted this year for doing just that. And also, supporting citizens who want to advocate for peace in their own communities. Encouraging grassroots movements that build bridges instead of walls. People themselves have to be part of the solution.
So if we pull all this together from our deep dive, it really does seem like religion is this profound double-edged sword, just like we said at the start.
It really is.
It offers so much comfort, community, meaning, purpose to billions of people. But when it gets twisted, when it's weaponized by those seeking power or fueled by fear, it can become this incredibly dangerous spark for conflict.
And I think the key takeaway is this. Yes, history and the modern world show us the risks are absolutely real. Religiously fueled conflict is not just a theoretical danger, but the potential for cooperation, for understanding, for peace is just as real. It depends on the choices we make, the efforts we invest in dialogue, tackling those root causes, education.
Right. The outcome isn't predetermined.
No, it's not. We have agency here.
So that leaves a big thought for you listening to this. Given everything we've unpacked today, where do you think we're headed? Is religion poised to spark the next global conflict? Or could it, maybe, ultimately help unite us in finding common ground, a shared pursuit of peace?
It's something to really reflect on.
Definitely.
Oh.
We hope this deep dive gave you some food for thought. Keep exploring these ideas. Keep questioning the complex forces shaping our world. Thanks for joining us.